Welcome to the Blue Cafe. We bring you stories of faith, love, and devotion. Yeah, just kidding, please help us grow by hitting that like button. Now on to the story. My dad disowned my sister and he is dying. How do I convince her to let him go? This is gonna be long. Backstory: my family used to be really close, but that changed in 2003 when my dad, 55M, discovered that my mom, 54F, was having an affair with John, 54M, my dad's childhood best friend. He was basically his brother back then and he was my dad's best man in his wedding with mom. He begged her to stay and work things out, but my mom ended up leaving him for John and eventually they got a divorce and my mom ended up marrying John 5 months later. My twin sister Sarah, 27F, was always the stereotypical daddy's girl. Dad spoiled her a bit more than the rest of us and she was basically his shadow back then, and that's why it was really surprising to us that Sarah chose to stay with our mom after the divorce. Back then me, 27M, and her were the only ones to still live with our parents. We have other 4 brothers. I choose to stay with dad and Sarah choose to live with mom, and in the weekends she come to stay with me and dad. I choose to stay with dad and I occasionally went to mom house. To say that the divorce and my sister choosing to stay with mom ducked up my dad is an understatement. He tried to act like he was okay in front of us, but every single weekday for the year following the divorce I could hear him cry himself to sleep. After the divorce, the relationship between Sarah and dad didn't change that much. He started to spoil her a bit more than usual and still remained the usual super dad, showing up in every parent-teacher conference, ballet recital and soccer match and being the most present dad possible. Things started to change when she suddenly changed her mind about med school. Our dad is a surgeon, and she always said that she wanted to follow his steps, but mom and John ended up pressuring her to change her career path to become a lawyer. Mom and John are both lawyers. During her studies, John started mentoring her and they became really close. After she finished her education, he got her a job at his law firm. On to the issue. In 2017 Sarah got married. My dad was absolutely thrilled about her wedding. He gave Sarah a blank check for her dream wedding. To be fair, he did this to all of us. He really liked weddings, but in Sarah's case he was really excited because she is his only daughter, and I always remembered him talking about walking her down the aisle. Like every wedding that we went to, he always said to her that he couldn't wait for the day to walk down his little girl down the aisle. One day before the wedding, Sarah drops the bomb that dad and John will be walking her down the aisle together. Well, dad is the most non-confrontational person to walk on this earth and she expected him to just suck it up. He didn't do that. They got into a huge fight. First time I see he get angry, and in the end he didn't attend the wedding and John ended up walking Sarah down the aisle. The fallout was massive. After the wedding, dad and his side of our family basically disowned her and their relationship became non-existent. She tried to reach out after a while and make amends several times, but he simply didn't want to talk or hear about her. We expected him to turn around when she gave birth in 2018, but he doesn't even want to meet her kids. Earlier this year, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and unfortunately the treatment didn't work and he is terminal. Even with that, he still doesn't want to see her again and she doesn't understand that. I am very close to my dad and this last few weeks are being really difficult for me. How do I convince her to let him go? TL, doctor, dad disowned sister, sister is not accepting that, dad is now dying and still doesn't want to see her. How can I help her? There really isn't anything you can do. There is no way to make this less awkward or horrible for her. She made her choices years ago. Now she has to live, and die, with the consequences. I know you would like to make it easier, but I would just step back from this. The only statement should be, I'm sorry, dad still doesn't want to see you. And spend all your energy on your dad. Not on a dead relationship. I would say that by her choosing the man who took his wife and life away, to walk her down the aisle, that she was the one who chose to disown her father. She needs to live with the consequences. Absolutely. To wait a day before the wedding to drop that bomb, she knew it wasn't going to go over well. Terrible situation all around, confused face. And to not back down? Ugh. I'll be honest, I'm baffled that she ever thought this could have gone any other way. She thought the dad was a pushover. She was wrong. Now she's living with the consequences. So is he. The hurt that man must live with. Op has mentioned it, she thought that her dad will just be a doormat, like he was before. She couldn't tell him sooner because then he wouldn't pay for it. I think your sister is selfish and maybe spoiling her wasn't such a great idea. Absolutely. Just before reading that bit I was like, oh. It was the ultimate betrayal. The guy that took his wife was a long-time best friend, then took the daughter he adored and changed her entire career path to match their own. She was going to follow in her father's footsteps and then... Yeah. Your sister made all the wrong moves as an adult. Who knows, maybe one day she'll feel his pain and realize how utterly self-indulgent and hurtful her choices were towards her father, man shrugging. And this is coming from someone who doesn't even get along with their family, scared face. I feel so bad for the dad, disappointed face. Yeah, I'ma be real, the daughter is pretty ducking shitty NGL. Update, my dad disowned my sister and he is dying. How do I convince her to let him go? Some people asked for an update. Unfortunately, life isn't all about happy endings, this is a sad ending. A week after I posted the original post, my dad started getting worse, his health started declining really fast. We lost him exactly 1 month ago. It wasn't pretty, I never thought it would be, but I never thought it would be that heartbreaking. He was in a lot of pain, he'd been through so much in these last months. As heartbreaking as it was to us, he deserved to rest, he was tired. In the end, he was lucid enough to say his goodbyes to me and my older brothers. Hearing him saying what he said to me was one of the most painful and beautiful moments of my life. His words to me meant a lot. I won't say exactly what he said because I believe that it's just too personal. He said goodbye to my daughters, 11 Mo and 2 Yo. It was just like when I was a kid. He gave them a kiss on the forehead, told them to be good girls, and said that he loved them. It was something I won't ever forget, and it hurts like hell that they are so young to understand what happened. They still ask about Grandpa, and every time I try to explain to them that he isn't coming back, they don't seem to understand that, and how can I blame them? I'm only 27 yo, I honestly don't get it. I was supposed to get a lot more years with my dad, it doesn't seem fair at all. The worst part was that my twin sister Sarah, dad died without speaking to her. I tried to talk to him about her, but he wasn't interested in speaking with her. She started getting more desperate and suddenly he died. It was expected, but she was in denial. His funeral was beautiful, a lot of people shared their stories about him, it was nice. Sarah saw dad for the first time since the night before her wedding. She didn't recognize him, he was very skinny. Dad was always a bit overweight, the famous dad bod, but he had lost a lot of weight from cancer. She cried a lot during the whole funeral. Mom and John tried to show up at the ceremony and my uncles were forced to kick them out of the funeral. Good ducking riddance. Dad's will went as expected as it could. Dad's family came from old money, petrochemicals, so he always had a lot of money. He left a little bit of money and properties divided equally to all his kids, including Sarah. He left a trust fund, which was a lot of money, for all his grandkids including Sarah kids which he never met. It was honestly expected. My dad never really cared about money that much, he just wanted us to be comfortable and assured his grandkids all had something to support them. The tricky part was the personal things. He left a really big letter to all of us, except Sarah. It was really personal stuff. In my letter he spoke to me about our story, about my childhood. It was really nice. I must have read the letter like 100 times and I cried every single time. One of Dad's favorite hobbies was photography. He was quite an enthusiast, and the subject of his photos was pretty much our family. When he and Mom were together, later it turned out to be just me and my siblings. As a result of this we had a lot of pictures from us growing up. He gave each of us a photo album, and behind each photo, he wrote something, where it has taken and a few words. I was honestly very surprised with this. He must have done this long before he died. It was a very thoughtful goodbye gift, something that was very typical of Dad. Sarah didn't get a letter, and her album didn't have anything wrote behind her photos, and when she found out about this she had a mental breakdown. The regret was eating her alive, still is. She was admitted to a hospital and spent an entire week there. She is doing a bit better now, getting a little better every day. Her husband and I are really confident in her recovery. She is sleeping and eating almost normally now. She still starts to cry randomly multiple times on a daily basis, but it's getting better, at least that's what I am telling to myself. Which brings us to last week. My wife and I discovered that we are expecting again. It wasn't planned or anything like that. My wife switched birth control last month and she spends a week without taking the pill. It is still very early in her pregnancy, so we haven't told anyone yet. The thing is that I'm really angry. I'm angry that my future kid is not gonna be able to meet Dad. I'm ducking pissed, honestly. It doesn't seem fair at all. I'm angry and I'm scared. My dad was supposed to guide me in the whole parenthood process. He was teaching me a lot of us with my daughters. I'm ducking, scared of doing this without him. I'm scared of not being a good father like he was to me, because my kids deserve that. This is it, folks. This whole situation could be a lot better. I play the what if scenario in my head every day. Unfortunately, it doesn't change anything. This is honestly a bitter ending. Doesn't seem fair at all. But that's the thing about life, it's actually never fair. I want to thank everyone who gave me advice and to everyone who reached out and offered their support in the chat. I was very lonely at that time, still am. Haha, duck this year, honestly, it meant a lot to me. Thank you, Reddit. This whole situation is sad. It really is. Listen, bud, let me tell you something. Your amazing dad did his job, and he gave you whatever he could pass on to you. Best thing you can do is live according to the good things he taught you. Grab a book and start journaling all your best memories. Talk to your family members, write down what they remember too. This is the time to do it while memories are fresh. Losing him is sad, but find happiness in also realizing that the whatever hardships he had in life are also over. Now you need to do your best to be as great a father as he was, so your children can benefit from him through the hands of the son he raised with his own 2 hands. I wish you the best in your journey forward. The rest of these replies are more gritty, but I agree with Canada's Nubs 100%. Write down your memories. Tell your story, and your dad's story. My mom and her parents are long gone, but my mom took the time to write out journals for me when I was a baby. She wrote her stories, my grandparents' stories, and interviewed my dad's family and wrote down their tales as well. Now that these people are gone, those journals are my most precious possession. Tell your dad's story from your memory, write that down before it fades. After I lost my family, I didn't bother to write a lot down because I thought I'd remember it. I can hardly remember anything now, and I regret not taking notes while I could. Holy duck, dude. My heart hurts for you. But I'm sure your dad raised you to be a great father. Just because he isn't here doesn't mean he isn't still guiding you. You've got this. You can do this. I echo this, don't stress it up. The sense of right and wrong was instilled in you long before you even had kids. It's the value system that matters, not as much individual actions. Your values will consistently guide you in your day-to-day parenting. Furthermore, it's your kids who will teach you more about parenting than your father probably ever could. Just need to keep learning. My deepest condolences and all the best to Op. I am a stepdad. 2 years ago, my stepdaughter got married. She made it clear she wanted both her dad and me to walk her down the aisle, or she wasn't doing it. Wedding day, we both walked her down the aisle. But it was different for us. I didn't steal her mother from her father. She lived with us mostly as she grew up, not because she loved us more, but because her dad only had so much room in his home with his new wife and their 2 children. In your dad's case, he felt betrayed again when not only did she choose to live with her mom and affair partner husband, she chose to no longer follow his footsteps but mom and her AP, and then expected to continue the betrayal of having to escort his daddy's girl with the man who helped destroy his marriage and relationship with his daughter. I don't fault your dad one bit for breaking all contact. He didn't disown her since he still left her things in her will and the photo album. He still loved his daddy's girl, but the damaged relationship was thanks to her decisions. Bad decisions have consequences. He probably did his best to not say to her "you're just like your $M mother" out of anger. Your dad sounds like he is a great guy. Could I make a suggestion? Comb over as much social media as you can for any videos that may exist of your dad, download them, save them to disk and flash drive for safekeeping. Matter of fact, now would be a great time for you to make videos of yourself talking about how great your dad is and stories you have of him so you can share it with your future child so he or she can get to know your dad even with him gone. I have a video of my elderly disabled mother dancing with me at Christmas last year, giggling and so happy listening to her old records on the new record player I got her. I need to get videos of my dad and I together now that I think about it, so I can show my grandchildren if my parents pass before I can become a grandpa. Geez. John must have really done a number on your sister to make her think that having her bio dad walking her down the aisle with the man that betrayed him and destroyed his family was going to be a reasonable thing to ask. Lots of women have their stepdads and their bio dads walk them down the aisle together. But not when there was cheating involved. Did she know about the cheating? It just seems like a completely tone-deaf request. Honestly, mom was awful to him and the daughter just kept twisting the knife. Granted, the mom probably had some influence, but geez, she was wrong. Dad probably felt used by daughter. Like one more time he was set aside PC of John. On a wedding that he paid for. He must have been so heartbroken and pissed. How cold-hearted was she, man? I cannot imagine the pain he went through. I feel the same way, and honestly I don't feel bad for the daughter. From what I read, he was a good father and didn't deserve that. She paid the ultimate price. Sometimes we make decisions in life that are very wrong, and there's just no way to recover from them, and life will never be the same again. I think we seriously need to refrain from thinking we know the situation. We see the side of her brother in his obvious rose-colored glasses. Chances that her story will be so different from his. My brother doesn't get how my sister and I don't get along with our dad. Our mom left with another man, but dad wasn't an angel. We don't go to details with our brother because he was treated differently and he wouldn't get it. I agree with you, there's likely more to it. It has been 17 years since the separation and it sounds like she's lived with her mother and stepfather since she was 10 years old at the start of all this. In all fairness, she probably did see the stepdad as a second dad whether the bio dad liked it or not. Just a really sad situation, and I'm especially sad for her that her father was dying and he didn't want to see her, all for a years-long argument over who would walk her down the aisle. As a parent myself, I could never make it my kid's problem with any affairs or cheating. I think he was being unreasonable taking his pain out on the wrong people, but I guess now it doesn't matter that he's gone. I hope Op and the sister can heal in their separate ways and be able to move on from this. I believe that both Op and the twin knew about the cheating, which makes her request all that much more heartless. It's sad that perhaps if she had let only her dad walk her down the aisle they may still have had a relationship. Just the act of not letting him walk her down the aisle alone is unforgivable. And to tell him right before the wedding after spending all of bio dad's money without returning it, I presume, I can't even begin to imagine the pain and betrayal he was feeling. This after he rose above her, choosing to live with mom, changing her career, etc., and still she chose a completely avoidable cataclysm for their relationship. It's so unbelievably heartless, and mom, John and daughter all chose so badly and with so little regard for decency and honesty. I feel so bad for Op. I hope that his sister will come out of her depression and learn from the experience. It's a good reminder that no action is free from consequences if you aren't vigilant in making important decisions that can ruin people and relationships. You might never get a chance to recover what is lost. We hope you have enjoyed today's episode. Please comment, like and subscribe. Cheers. Have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are.